There is something heaven wants you to know right now. The man God has prepared to be your husband, the one whose name is already written in the divine plan for your life, carries a background that will make people pause. Some will question it. Others will not understand it. A few may even speak against it. But here is what the angels have been whispering in the heavenly courts, beloved. His background is not a mistake. It is not something God overlooked when he was forming this union. That surprising element in his past, in his family line, in his story, it is precisely what God intended to use to glorify himself through your marriage. Right now, in this very moment, there are divine conversations happening about you. About him. About the beautiful collision that is coming between two lives that the world might say do not match. But God is not bound by the world's measuring systems. And the very thing that might cause others to raise their eyebrows is the exact thread God has been weaving into a masterpiece that will leave people in awe of his sovereignty. Before we go deeper into what heaven is revealing about this man and his background, if you are hearing this message and something in your spirit is already stirring, I invite you to subscribe to God's Prophecy Message channel right now. Do not wait until the end. The enemy does not want you to receive what is about to be spoken over your life. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications. And as you do, type in the comments, God's choice is perfect. Declare it over your future. And if you feel led to like this video, do it now as a prophetic act of agreement with what heaven is about to release into your life. For those who have been blessed by this ministry and want to help us continue spreading these prophetic messages of hope and encouragement, you can support this channel through Super Thanks right here on YouTube, or through our Buy Me Coffee link in the description below. Your generosity helps us reach more hearts that desperately need to hear these words from heaven. Now let us step into what the Spirit is saying. You have been praying for a godly man. A man after God's own heart. Someone who will lead you spiritually, protect you, cherish you, honor you before the Lord. And heaven has heard every single prayer. But here is what you may not have expected. The man God has chosen for you, his story does not look like the story you imagined. Perhaps he comes from a family that was broken. Maybe his parents were not believers. Or they were believers who walked away from the faith. Perhaps he grew up in poverty when you grew up in abundance. Or he grew up in wealth when you knew struggle. Maybe his cultural background is different from yours. His race, his nationality, his traditions. Things that make people whisper. Things that cause family members to express concern. Or perhaps his past held darkness that you never experienced. Addiction, rebellion, a season far from God that looked nothing like your journey. And right now, you might be wondering, God, why would you choose someone like this for me? I have been faithful. I have waited. I have kept myself pure. I have pursued you with my whole heart. Should not my husband come from a background that reflects that same dedication? Beloved, heaven wants you to understand something profound. God does not choose your husband based on his background. He chooses him based on his destiny. And sometimes, the most powerful testimonies come from the most unexpected stories. Let me take you to the Word. Let me show you how God has been doing this since the very beginning. Think about Moses, the man God chose to lead his people out of Egypt, the one who would speak face to face with the Almighty, the deliverer, the lawgiver. Moses was raised in Pharaoh's palace. He was nursed by his Hebrew mother, yes, but he was educated in the ways of Egypt. He learned their customs, their worship, their ideology, and then he became a murderer. He killed an Egyptian and fled to the desert. For 40 years, he lived as a fugitive, a shepherd in Midian, married to the daughter of a pagan priest. If you had met Moses at age 79 before the burning bush, and someone told you, "This man will lead God's people," you would have laughed. His background did not suggest destiny. But God saw what no one else could see. He saw the deliverer hidden in the shepherd. He saw the leader concealed in the exile. He saw purpose buried under layers of unlikely circumstances. And when God called Moses, he did not erase his background. He redeemed it. He used it. The palace education gave Moses the skills to negotiate with Pharaoh. The desert years taught him humility and dependence on God. The surprising background became the very foundation for the extraordinary calling. Now come with me to the book of Ruth, a love story that changed the lineage of kings. Ruth was a Moabite. Let that sink in for a moment. The Moabites were not just foreigners to Israel. They were descendants of an incestuous relationship between Lot and his daughter. They were enemies of God's people. They had tried to curse Israel through Balaam. The law said that no Moabite should enter the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation. And yet God chose Ruth, a Moabite widow, a woman with no status, no wealth, no connections, a woman whose background would make any proper Israelite family hesitate. But Boaz, a wealthy landowner from Bethlehem, a man of standing and reputation, saw something different. He saw her character, her loyalty, her faith in the God of Israel, her devotion to Naomi. And he married her, not despite her background, but because God had been orchestrating something magnificent. From their union came Obed. From Obed came Jesse. From Jesse came David. And from David's line came Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. A Moabite woman is in the lineage of the Messiah. Let that truth settle into your spirit. God does not just overlook surprising backgrounds. He strategically chooses them. He weaves them into his greatest stories. Because when he does the impossible with the unlikely, no one can claim the glory but him. Look at Rahab, a prostitute in Jericho, a woman who sold her body to survive, a Gentile living in a city marked for destruction. Everything about her background screamed disqualification. And yet, when the spies came to Jericho, God directed them to her house. She hid them, protected them, declared her faith in the God of Israel. And when Jericho fell, she and her family were saved. But the story does not end there. Rahab married Salmon, a prince of the tribe of Judah. From their union came Boaz. Yes, the same Boaz who married Ruth. A former prostitute became the great-great-grandmother of King David. She is listed in the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew chapter 1. God took a woman with the most scandalous background imaginable and placed her in the royal line of the Messiah. Why? Because redemption is his specialty. Because transformation is his signature. Because he delights in taking what the world rejects and making it central to his purposes. Your future husband's background, whatever it is, whatever surprises it holds, it is not a problem for God to solve. It is a testimony waiting to be told. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. But I need someone who has always walked with God. Someone whose family knows the Lord. Someone whose past is clean. Someone who fits the image I have carried. And beloved, there is nothing wrong with desiring a godly man. But do not confuse godliness with background. Do not mistake transformation for perfection. Some of the most godly men you will ever meet are the ones who were rescued from the deepest pits. The ones who know the power of grace because they needed it desperately. The ones who worship with tears in their eyes because they remember where they came from. The ones who laid with humility because they have tasted the consequences of pride. Think about the Apostle Paul. Before he was Paul, he was Saul of Tarsus, a Pharisee, a persecutor of the church. He stood and watched as Stephen was stoned to death. He dragged men and women from their homes and threw them into prison. He breathed threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord. His background was violent, zealous, religious but empty. And then, on the road to Damascus, Jesus met him, transformed him, renamed him. And this man with the shocking background became the greatest missionary the church has ever known. He wrote most of the New Testament. He planted churches across the known world. He suffered beatings, shipwrecks, imprisonment, all for the sake of the gospel. Would you have chosen Paul to be an apostle? Would you have trusted him after everything he did? The early church struggled with it. They were afraid of him. They questioned his conversion. But God knew what he was doing. Paul's background as a Pharisee gave him the theological training to defend the gospel. His Roman citizenship gave him access to places